Welcome to the Vibrant Beginnings podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Thomas. This week I am joined by Megan, who is a wife, mom of four, and doing her best to follow Jesus and make a positive difference in her home and the world. Her kids are 4, 6, 8, and 10. She is a stay-at-home mother, and her passions include crafting, gardening, and home projects. Outside of being a mom, she loves to garden and read. As a family, they like to watch older shows like Little House on the Prairie, play games, read kids' books, and go to the park. Occasionally, the zoo or aquarium wins them out as well. To treat herself, she likes to rest, read, and sip coffee in silence. With that, I give you Megan. All right, welcome, Megan. I'm so excited to talk to you about your journeys to motherhood. We've known each other since probably like middle school, high school, so it's really exciting to hear your journey. I've seen your kiddos grow up on Facebook and all of that. So tell me a little bit about your journeys in motherhood, your pregnancies, your births. You have 4 beautiful children.
I do, yes. So my children range from 4, 6, 8, and 10 years old now. Um, when I married my husband, we knew that we wanted to start a family, just not right away. So we did use birth control for the first few years. And we knew that we eventually wanted to have kids, but we were unsure of when. So at probably around 3 years of marriage, we decided, okay, we're going to stop this and just kind of leave it open and just see what happens. And if it's meant to be, we'll have kids. And if it's not meant to be, we won't have kids. And shortly after, along came my oldest, which is my only son.
Aw.
And then after that, we went on to have 3 beautiful girls as well. And now our home is total chaos most days, but we love it. Um, with all of my 4 pregnancies, they felt very much the same in a lot of ways and also very different in a lot of ways. And then each birth story was very different for each child as well. None of my births were the same. None of them were even super close to each other as far as like what actually happened during the birth process. And looking back on it, there are quite a few things that I probably would have done differently, knowing what I know now and having been through those experiences.
Yeah. So with your first birth, did you do any like prep for it? Was there any like type of classes you took or any research you did or reading or anything like that? Because you mentioned it was kind of God's will, if you will, if you got pregnant and surprise pregnancy, yay. But was there any like
Yes.
prep that you did?
Yes. So at that time, we were living in Jacksonville, Florida. And with it being our first, we really had no idea what to expect. So we took at our local hospital. They had some like first time parenting type of classes. And I want to say it was maybe 6 weeks, once a week, or something like that. We took those classes. I read your typical kind of what to expect when you're expecting type of mom books
Right.
and did a lot of reading online. My mom is actually an OB nurse. She has done OB nursing forever, like since she started her career. So I had the, I guess, luxury and ability to call her anytime I needed something or had questions. And I didn't have to go into the doctor every single time.
Yeah.
But we ended up choosing my mom's doctor, who she works for, who lived in Sebring, as our first doctor for my son. So we were 4 hours away from my mom and our first doctor. So that meant every time we had an appointment, we drove down to Sebring 4 hours away,
Oh,
which
wow.
is totally impractical.
Yeah, no.
Um, I don't know that I would encourage that. But if you're in a situation like me, I don't really discourage that either, if you're comfortable with it. So I wanted the assurance of my mom being there, having that opportunity um, with my firstborn. And really, it was probably just my own uh, safety type. I felt more safe with my mom than I did with anybody else. And knowing that she would give me the absolute best care if it came down to me needing care or my child.
Yeah.
So we made the drive back and forth. My son was a pretty rough delivery. As far as preparing mentally for him, I feel like I did most of the mental steps, but in life, there's so much besides just knowing.
Right.
Um, I feel like your life is so much mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. It's all so combined, and if you only have one of those four aspects, you're not really going to be as successful as you would be if you had all four of those at your best self.
Right.
So physically, I really did not prepare my body for having a child. I didn't really have much coaching or guidance on how to have the best delivery and pregnancy
Right.
um, before my son. And honestly, it was not until my third doctor that I kind of had some of that coaching of, oh, you really should be doing this and this. And at that time, they had paperwork to look back on and see, oh, you had a really large baby. So we're going to cut off your sugars. Things like that, that my first doctor did not mention to me. So I guess one of those, if I could go back and do it over,
Mm-hmm.
I would start with in the preparing season, preparing myself not so much financially, because if you try to prepare financially, you'll never have kids because you'll stop yourself thinking, oh, it's too expensive. But
Right.
um, I would definitely have prepared myself more physically and more probably emotionally to have children. So, what I would have done differently physically is that I would have for sure eaten way more fruits and veggies, just getting that natural energy, vitamins, nutrients. With my son, I had so much like acid reflux and not so much morning sickness with any of them, but the reflux was horrible. So, in my mind, and from talking to other friends and people, they would say, oh, drink some ginger ale, that'll help. So
Mm.
I lived on ginger ale, and he was a summer baby born at the end of August. So I lived on watermelon and those little juice popsicles and all the sugars, all the ginger ale popsicles, typical summer, you know. And if I
Southern
could go back,
foods.
yes. If I could go back and change that, I for sure would. Cutting out those sugars and really taking the fruits and veggies route. They did tell me with him after so many weeks, and I forget if it was like 28 weeks or 34 weeks or whatever, the baby starts to absorb the sugars from the mother. And that's how the babies can put on that excess weight. And of course, the bigger baby, typically the harder actual birth it is. And so my son came out 9 pounds, 6 ounces.
Oh, wow.
It was a very difficult birth because of that. And I feel like had I done better with my eating and exercising and taking care of myself,
Mm-hmm.
it may have been easier in the long run. Then, as far as preparing more mentally, I would say that uh, I probably should have taken a little bit more care of myself and my current stressors. At the time I was teaching, and teaching can be a really stressful job, and it was summertime, and then I was kind of stressed about finances and just all the things. And so taking care of some of that, and then the emotional part of it. um, One thing that we were not prepared for going into having kids was realizing that we had so many um, unmet childhood needs, that inner child. And if you don't really pay attention, and if you don't have that self awareness, you can go into parenthood thinking, oh, I'm going to do everything that, I wanted myself to have. But every person is different,
Right.
and every person has different needs, and those needs have to be met in different ways. And so it really can be a struggle to try and deal with your own needs as a parent, and then also having a child to meet their needs as well.
Yeah. I think I heard it best explained by someone that we get to parent our younger self. So when kids come
Absolutely.
into our world, we get to do the things that we wish our parents could have potentially done for us, or yeah, how they could have talked to us or nurtured us in some ways. So it's interesting that you say that. I love all of those perspectives on parenthood and like what you could have done or would have done differently if you were to do it all again. That's great insight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have so many differences between all of the kids, and each kid needs something totally different than the other. And we need something totally different than our kids need. And so trying to meet all of the needs can be a challenge, but it's also like one of the most beautiful parts of life is investing into others, whether it's your kids, your husband, your wife, your friends. So just being able to try and meet those needs and get to know each other on a deeper personal level is very rewarding as well.
Definitely. I love that. In terms of by the time you had fourth baby, how prepared did you feel? You said like third baby, you got some insight onto a little bit more coaching and prep. By the fourth baby, were you like, I got this, all is good? Or were there still some things you're like, ooh, I could have known that, or this would have been helpful to know?
Right. So by baby number four, you think, oh, I have got this down. I've
Yeah.
been to this rodeo 3 times. We're going to breeze through it. Um, as far as birth went, my number three was by far my easiest birth. That was the doctor that said no sugars. By number four, I cut out those sugars on my own for the most part afterwards. My number three was my smallest baby. She was only 6 pounds, 11 ounces. So
Oh, wow.
almost 3 pounds less than my son,
Yeah.
which made for a much easier delivery. I had a fantastic, fantastic doctor. He was out in Missouri. We were living in Missouri at the time. Um, Amazing little country doctor. And he just did so great as far as preparing me. Um, the actual birth process was great. And then by number four, we had moved to Atlanta. So now we're on state number three, doctor number four for the fourth
Yeah. Oh,
pregnancy.
wow.
Lots of different changes, different hospitals, doctors, all the things. Um, and so number four, even though I felt like, oh, I've got this, it was actually way more difficult than number three birth process. It was partially a difference in the doctor's style because I induced with all four of mine. So if I could go back and change one major thing with the actual birth process and not necessarily prepping before, I don't think I would induce
Mm.
unless I felt like I just had to because my body wasn't progressing or something like that. But
Right.
in general, I had planned to induce with all of them for convenience sake. Um, I was, like I said, I was teaching with two, actually, yeah, I was teaching with two. By the time we had gotten on to number three, we were in a state pretty much by ourselves. All of our family was in Florida. We were in Missouri. When we moved to Atlanta, it was just us here. And so, in order to have my other children cared for, I felt like I had to plan to induce so that, again, mom could come to the rescue and mom
Yeah.
could be there with the little ones. And she was with me at the hospital for the first three births. With the fourth one, she was not there. And that made it difficult for me to not have mom there in the hospital room with me. Um, and we did run into some complications after inducing with my fourth. And I really honestly thought after number three, okay, we've got this. We are good to go.
Right.
And then we had these complications after number four. And I felt like this was not supposed to happen. This was supposed to be easy. She was supposed to walk out and she didn't. So, but yes, if I could have not induced, waited on the babies to come naturally, and not felt pressured that I had to try and control, try and schedule this birth at this time so that everything was kind of taken care of, I feel like the process would have been much smoother on my body and on the actual birth of the children. So I probably would go back and change that if I could have. But, you know, hindsight is 50-50. So
Definitely. Yeah, there's just certain things you don't know, and I think every birth experience is like what it's supposed to be for mom and baby. Like you can do all the planning in the world, but there's only so much that you can control, you know.
right.
On the
Quick overview of all four of my births and how they were similar or different. With my first, my oldest, he was, like I said, so large, and of course, we didn't know that he was measuring so large. And I was induced, so they started me on pitocin. And my first doctor was pretty quick to up the Pitocin about every hour, bump it up, bump it up, bump it up. So his progressed quickly as far as contractions and dilating and everything. Um, by I would say around 5 o'clock in the evening, 5:30, he said, "Okay, you're 10 centimeters. You're ready to push." Well, I did no epidurals with any of my kids. Um, I was feeling very heavy contractions. I could feel all of it, but I did not feel like they would say, "Oh, you'll know when you're ready to push." I never had that feeling with him. I did not feel like it's time for me to start pushing. However, the doctor tells me it's time to start pushing. So, with all the contractions that would come, and they were pretty steady and consistent, I would push and push and push. And this is my first baby. So I don't really know how I'm supposed to be pushing because
right.
you just don't know anything with the first one. So they're trying to coach me through, oh, try this, try that, you know, do this position, do that position. We'll see if this works and that works. And then we got like 3 hours into this pushing. And at this point, I'm feeling it all. I'm exhausted, my body is tired, and he's just not coming. And he was starting to show signs of distress. His heart rate was dropping, and things were kind of starting to not look so good. And I just remember saying, I can't do this. He's not coming. I don't know what else to do. And I just felt desperate at that point. And I remember my mom saying, well, nobody else can do this for you. Nobody else can get him out. And I'm
Right.
thinking, like, this is not helping me in the moment. But you're right. Nobody else can do it because I was adamant that I did not want to have a C-section. So after about 3 hours, the doctor finally said, okay, baby's heart rate is dropping. She's not pushing. He's not coming out, or, you know, for whatever reasons, prep the OR. So when I heard him say prep the OR, it was like, this baby's coming out now, or now I'm going to heal from both sides, you know? So I think that kind of adrenaline kicked in. And towards the very end, I started feeling really nauseous. And that was probably my cue, like, okay, now it's time to really start pushing. You know, you're really getting into this active labor. So, like I said, I did not have an epidural, but towards the end, I did get some IV pain meds to help with the like nausea and everything too.
Yeah.
That was probably like the last, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. So they say OR. I'm like, no, we're not going to the OR. Cancel. We're going to get this baby out. I start just pushing and doing as much as I possibly could. And I think it just clicked, like, give it all you got right now. And then they started to see him finally making signs of coming out. And he's like, okay, hold on. We're going to give her like 2 more pushes. And I mean, they were like starting to wheel me down to OR in 30 seconds. And he's like, wait just a minute. And I was like, okay, come on, kid, we're getting out now. And I just pushed with every contraction, and he started finally coming out. Maybe I was pushing differently. I probably was.
Could have been,
Um,
yeah.
but thankfully, the prayers worked. He did make it out without having a C-section, which was my main goal. However, afterwards, I had a lot of tearing with him. I had some bowel problems afterwards, you know, just getting things started again. And he had a lot of like colic and reflux, like I did during pregnancy. So we also had a little bit of issue with beginning breastfeeding because I had no idea what I was doing. The lactation consultants at the hospital were very helpful. The nurses were very helpful. So they did get me off to a good start. Um, if you're a breastfeeding mama or thinking about it, drink tons of water. If you do not drink water, you will not make milk for that baby. And make sure you're feeding yourself a lot because you will not make milk if you're not eating all day long and drinking water all day long. Side note.
Good side note.
Yes. So it was just like all those first time, how do I push? What do I do? What do I expect? How do I breastfeed? You know, what comes next? All the unknowns, which was traumatic enough in itself, but then having the afterbirth, like all of the stitching and all of the healing. And thankfully, I did not have a C-section, so I didn't have to heal my stomach also, which was great for me. I know some women do have to after, you know, enduring all of that. So I was very, very thankful for that. With my number two child, my daughter born in Jacksonville, she was also induced with Pitocin. This particular doctor also bumped it up pretty quickly. My son was probably about an 8 to 10 hour labor from start to finish induction. My daughter was like 6 hours. She's always been head of everything. She's always like, listen, I'm an overachiever. I'm coming out early. We got this, mom. So they upped the Pitocin pretty quickly with her. I progressed very quickly. She comes out. All is good. It's early in the day. We got the rest of the day. However, after she was born, when he was trying to deliver the placenta, I hemorrhaged and started bleeding a lot. And I was not prepared for that, had no idea what was going on. I just know that I start seeing blood everywhere. And I did not hemorrhage with my son. So this was different for number two. I remember the doctor trying different things to stop the bleeding, mostly just forceful, you know, pressure, just using his hand to apply pressure or gauze pads and things. And it felt like a good 30 minutes or so of trying to stop this bleeding. I don't think that I realized how severe it was. My mom was with me for this one. She knew how severe it was, but she was also trying to not let me know how severe it was. Just the other day, I talked with her about this. It was probably been a couple months, but anyway, the other day, recently, she said, I said, Mom, with JoJo, I know that I hemorrhaged and bled. Do you remember, like, was it bad? I don't remember it being so bad because she was there. She said, oh yes, it was horrible. And she's like, that doctor almost could not get you to stop bleeding. And she remembered a very different story than I remembered because I didn't know the risk involved. And she did because she's seen this many times, I'm sure. So all in all, bleeding was stopped by the doctor within an hour for sure, probably within 30 minutes or whatever. It was a slightly difficult recovery because I remember having to take the iron supplements and things because obviously I'd lost a lot of blood, so my iron was a little bit low. But all in all, fairly easy, decent recovery after the traumatic birth part of that. The rest was kind of like, okay, we're good to go. After the first couple weeks, my iron was back up and I was feeling pretty good. And by like 6 weeks, we were going to the zoo and just getting out. And it was good by then. With my third, she was by far the easiest delivery, the easiest baby, toddler. she has definitely grown into her personality as she's gotten older, and she is no longer the easiest, but birth wise, I mean, almost just walked out on her own. She, the doctor had given me all of this great prep. And as far as like, this is what we're going to do, or this is what I suggest, he was very open to, however, he said, listen, we will do it your way and we will still be friends, even if I disagree, and he was very supportive. Um, he was the only one that I remember that, hopefully this isn't too graphic, but he massaged my insides to like open the way and
Oh,
prepare for
wow.
baby.
Yeah.
And I really think that helped so much. And then she was so little. I mean, she practically just flew out. And then here she is. And I had no stitches, no bleeding, no recovery time.
Yeah.
It was amazing. The best birth story you could have ever hoped for. So by number 4, I thought, okay, redo of number 3. But no, number 4 had her own birth story.
Yeah.
And she was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. So she was about a pound heavier than my number 3. And she came out very slowly. The doctor would not want to increase the Pitocin for hours at a time. She wanted to take it slow. She wanted to, watch my body and the baby and all.
Yeah.
And that was fine. But I was like, she needs to come out now. Like, I'm done. And my impatience, my control, I was like, listen, lady, I've had 3. Just bump it up. I'm good with it. But she was like, no, we're going to slow it down. And I was talking to the nurses on the side. I was like, will you please tell this lady to bump the Pitocin up? Like, we're ready to go home already. And so they
Even when
helped
she's
me
not
with,
looking.
yes, they were like, well, listen, we have to do whatever she says, but we'll talk to her. So
Yeah.
they did talk her into, speeding things along, so to say. She did things very differently than I would have preferred. But at the end of the day, we had baby. It was a slower process.
Yeah.
After number 4, she also bled. I hemorrhaged with her as well. So I do believe it was for sure delivering the placenta. I could feel her kind of pulling on it to deliver it. And I just started bleeding. And this time it was way more traumatic than number 2 because mom's not here with me for this one. Mom's at home with the other 3 kids.
Right.
Um, I don't know what's going on. I just know I can see blood all over the table, like they're catching it in a bag.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Um, my husband was there with me, thankfully, but he's a little queasy at the sight of blood. So when I look at him for reassurance and he's like about to pass out, um, and then they called the nurses in at this point. The doctor's like, go get some nurses to help. And all these nurses start like flocking in the room. There must have been 10 of them in there.
Oh, wow.
And the doctor's like, what can we do to try and stop the bleeding? We've done this. Okay, well, let's try and give her, the suppository now. They did that, and that didn't help. Okay, let's try and give her this shot that's a blood clotting shot. Okay, that didn't help. Okay, let's give her this thing called the Bakary bloom and all these things. And it was like we had exhausted our list of what we can try. And so she says, prep the OR. And I'm like, wait a minute, baby's out. Like, this is not in the plan. And I heard OR, and I don't remember if it was before or after, but my body just went into shock and I just started shaking. And um, she said, give her a warm blanket. And they had these like warm, toasty blankets that were like heavy, like a weighted blanket. It was amazing. I put this warm blanket on and it felt like, okay, I can relax.
Yeah.
And that helped me to stop shaking. And then all the nurses tried all the things. They've got the OR prep. They've already called down to OR. They're like getting ready to wheel me out to OR. And the doctor says, wait, I think I might have gotten it to stop. Give me 2 minutes. Let's see. And we're just praying like, God, let this stop. I do not want to go to OR. I don't want them taking things out and doing whatever they're going to do. And we wait. And she's like, okay, just, like be real still. Don't move. Let's see if anything else starts bleeding. And we waited 2 minutes and hadn't started back up. So then she says, okay, we're going to wait like 5 minutes. So we wait like 5 minutes. It hadn't started back up. Okay, we're going to wait a few more minutes. And then she was like, okay, nurses, you're going to watch out for her. We're going to leave this thing in for 24 hours to keep the pressure on it. And it was the most uncomfortable 24 hours after birth.
Yeah.
But she was able to stop the bleeding finally after trying all the things. And I did not have to go to OR for her. So at the end of the day, all is well. We have baby. It was a traumatic experience, but there was one time where I thought, am I going to make it out of here?
Right.
And sure enough, I did. And I'm sure it was just harder because, mom wasn't there that time. And I didn't know what was going on, really. My husband didn't really know what was going on either. So sometimes that fear of the unknown just adds extra stress as well. But I have 4 healthy, beautiful children now. Each story is a different story, sometimes difficult to tell. Like, I don't want to scare anybody into not having kids, but I think it's healthy to know there are risks involved. Every story is different. What happened to me will not happen to somebody else, but it will happen to somebody. And then somebody else might have something a different way or, more severe or whatever. So you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what to expect. And sometimes it might even be after the fact, but I love my kids. I love my family. And it is true that you forget a lot of the pain, but you never forget totally all the pain that you went through to get those kids here.
Well, that's definitely by design that we are supposed to forget it, or no one would have kids, or if anyone had kids, it would be like one household, like one kid per household type thing.
Right.
If we didn't have all those happy hormones to remind us, no, kids are cute and we want to hold them and love on them and have more of them.
Yes, exactly.
Because like you said, oh gosh, yeah, there's some parts that are a little more challenging and not things that you can always prep for, like going into number 4 and expecting it to be similar to number 3. Yes, it could have been, but you never know. You can't go into expecting it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think a really great point too is in the birth room or wherever you plan to give birth is having people there that can advocate for you. So having your mom there, she's got that experience. And if my mom was there, mom doesn't have that experience as a nurse, so mom would have been flipping shit.
Right.
Like if she saw all that blood, but your mom having the experiences she does, she could probably, I would think, help to calm you in some ways, be that reassurance that everything's going to be okay. Even if mentally she's like, oh, fudge, like this is my baby girl and this is what's happening right now. She at least has that experience to know there's more than likely it's going to be okay.
Right.
Because my mom seeing that, she'd be like, oh no. She would have been like your husband with baby number 4, like, oh God, what's happening?
And he was texting her the whole time. And like, what do we do? She's bleeding, And so he was silently and privately communicating with her because he needed that reassurance that I was going to be okay. And I'm just like laid out on the table, like, do what you got to do at this point. And so, yes, it is very important to have that support with you if you can. And not every person has a supportive community. Not every woman has a husband or a mother or grandparents to, watch their other kids, or even just friends, a friend community. But I would definitely suggest, if a woman is thinking about starting a family and does not have a support group, I do think that it's very important to know that it is very difficult. It is difficult to have kids and to not have support, or to not have family that lives nearby, because
Right.
we've been married 15 years, and for about 10 of those years, we've lived nowhere near family. And the first few years that we did live near family, we didn't have kids. And so most of our childhood years, um, we have not had family nearby, and it is very challenging. Um, but get plugged in somewhere, some way, a local church group, or some kind of sporting, like all the baseball moms, or whatever your interests are. If you like gardening, join a garden club. If you love reading, a book club, whatever it is, to get, friends that can support you and help you, because it does take a village. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a village, you're going to be stressed out all the time and have nowhere to go and internalize all of that. And kids can pick up on when mom is stressed.
Oh, definitely.
My kids can pick up when I am stressed, and they're like, "Ooh, get me out of here." So you need help and support. And if you don't have that and you're thinking about having children, get that support first, because it's hard to go into it and then look for support when you're struggling already.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely valuable points and valuable places to look for that support. Because sometimes we forget, oh, yeah, these are places I can look to find my little tribe and my little community to help me out on my journey. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
So I know you guys are a movie family. If
Yeah.
motherhood and being parents was like a type of movie, like a different type of genre, what do you think your life would be right now? Like genre wise for movies?
If we did, or if we didn't have kids now?
No, if you do have kids. Like
If we
your
do have
life
kids.
now, currently with having 10, 8, 6, 4.
So, oh, that's a really good question. Um, Years ago, a friend, one of my best friends out of Missouri, said, "You have got to watch this show called Parenthood." And it has been years since I've seen it. And my mom brain is like, "Listen, if I don't need this right now, it's not going to stay here. It's gone, forgotten. I've slept since then." But I remember watching that show, and my kids were like, I may have had two at the time, and they were babies. But she said, "This is going to be your life, as your kids get bigger." And I remember watching it and thinking, this is so true to like so many circumstances. So I always think back to parenthood and a lot of those types of like stories and things. And then I was a huge fan of the show This Is Us, because
Oh, yeah.
I felt like it was so relatable in life, especially how it gives the different perspectives from when they were young kids to like young
Teenagers.
adults, and then married couples, and then older adults. And so I felt like that was very relatable, from every age perspective. So I would say somewhere between those two shows is where I feel like, okay, that's pretty true to life right there.
Yeah, those are good ones. This Is Us made me cry like every single week. I'm like, okay, I'm
Yes,
ready for the tears. Bring on the Kleenex.
I know, me too. So many tears.
Uh,
So true to life.
it is, and
Yeah.
it's great perspective too, because like you said, you get all the different styles of love or phases in life of love, which is great
Yeah.
too.
And you can feel so much even through the kids as young, young kids. You can just see their emotions and you can feel their heartache. And it does help you to kind of put into perspective and think about, like, oh, I just said something similar to my child without even thinking. Maybe my kid felt crushed like I could tell she felt, or something like that. It does help put things into perspective to see other people in the same boat, and then you realize, oh, I think I just did that, so now I need to go back to my kid and apologize, and make things right with them and really care about their emotions and their well-being over, looking good or eating this food or whatever the issue was about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate all of your perspective on your journey in motherhood and all of your births and everything. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this empowering episode of Vibrant Beginnings, hosted by me, Dr. Ashley Thomas. This podcast is powered by Creating Vibrant Families, where our mission is to help couples on their journey to conception, gain health for radiant pregnancies through to birth. Follow along for more empowering journeys to parenthood. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Have a good day. Bye.